Yeah, so I'm gonna read some selections from my new book, Mammal, from Roof Books. I like the cover, it's real pretty. So, cover by artist Tobias Brill, who lives in Hawaii. And this is a collection of both recent pieces and pieces spanning quite a bit of time that I like to say just really wanted to live in the same place, and that's why they ended up in this book. It's got a whole lot of themes, but overarchingly, I tend to re-examine whatever I'm writing about, a poetry of re-examination maybe, and sometimes pretty strongly. That's got 3 sections. If you picked it up, you would also notice there are a couple of one longer poem in between each of the 3 sections, so there are 2 longer poems. I'm not going to read those because they're quite long to read, though lovely to read in the book. So the first section is called What It's Not, and it kind of deals with my experience of not really having a static self or gender or anything that stays the same, and that kind of opens the door to a lot of stuff throughout the book. What do I mean? Well, here's the first poem. Why are you so shocked when you're not really you, you puny little caring so much, then tearing with teeth as if there were constancy in your skin, whipwind, snapdragon, kamikaze, sheer benevolence? Don't be a... Oh, for the buoyant sacrifice of latches. May you fling so far, you're not really you. Not everyone likes having it suggested that they're not really themselves. So, but that's me. Here's another one that's sort of along the same lines, at least in tone or theme. It may not be light that we're looking for, or looking at, for that matter. How do we see what we need to see? Life, for instance. What prana spans the machines we stare at ceaselessly, parking nuclei clanking clocks as avatars, while the living slip through sight, unhumanized and bold, and we know nothing that we cannot frankly be. Oh, the humility, sheer gut-strung lack that if we're lucky, if we strip our lovelorn minds, lets us see the underglow at last, bottoms up, whirling, world inside out. Every little thing, a thing no more, but thankfully, preciously, flux, gaunt and clarified, as honey catapulting through our pores. All right. Some of the pieces are abstract like those, and some are quite a bit less abstract. I don't see any reason not to include everything I feel like in a book. So some may relate to this one. Taking a shit in an airplane is something there ought to be a poem about. There ought to be a poem. Or maybe the act itself suffices. You, not you, turning inside out. One of just several acts of exchange with the world that belies the body itself, enacted forever amidst the stillness of earth. Where, with what do we exchange eliminating waste 30,000 feet above soil at 500 miles per hour in a cramped little unsterile plastic box. What exquisite blend of indecency and essence do you share? What turns inside out? You, pillar of mud, or the whole flying world? What poetry isn't there? This one has two similar words as the title. Samsara, a lot of people know as the Hindi cycle of death and rebirth. A similar word is samara, a beautiful word, I think, and those are the little seeds with wings that fall from trees that flutter. Samara samsara leaves the tit for oblivion, off into whatever it is. Don't fuck with me. I know your words are fatuous. How free she feels, unbound and flowing like life. Is it a moment? Is it eternity? Breathes all the air as it breathes her. Nothingness, mama. Forever ash and seed, winged womb, matriarch. You sing a well-rung tithe that rings us as the elm rings itself, staying a moment, then leaving, staying, then we ask all at once, how can we live with vicissitude? How can we plunge into dark? How can we be while sliding away? How can we be at all? Don't tell me what I am. You're wrong. I can be a little stern sometimes. I think here's a little story. We were of a mind to take a walk, so we set about deciding when and where to go. This wasn't a simple mull like that of grabbing a glass of water or turning on the TV, nor was it the existential quandary we're making it out to be. You might say it was a matter of geomancy. We needed the perfect spot to let this hive feel freed, to let our many lives swarm in a serenity. Top of the hills sounded good, and off we drove. Such an irony of the age that we sometimes need to drive in order to walk. But as we've chosen for the time to dwell amidst these swarms within swarms, it can often be the only way to achieve a state of what our speaking species calls solitude, but which we tend to think of as unpeopledness. We parked in our favorite spot and clambered down to the shadowy path that wound us into a breathing vale. Then we strolled and breathed and veiled and treed and brooked. Water rushing over rocks brook. We watered and rocked and ferned and redwooded and eucalyptused and bay-leaved and dirt-pathed. Tadpoled and newted and geckoed. Squirreled and woodchucked and something creeping through the underbrush. Sparrowed and crow-cawed and hawked and breezed. How we breezed and breathed. Breathed light in and out. Breathed molecules in and out. Breathed chlorophyll and musk and sandstone and sky in and out, in and out. After a while, we continued to breathe and move. We all did, as we always do. By ways we found ourselves back at the car, body and all, and drove toward town so full of sun. Partway home, back in the swarms, we stopped out of joy to ice cream, or as most would say, we got ourselves an ice cream cone, vanilla with those lovely specks of bean, and pressed our tongue against it. So those were from what it's not. There's quite a few of those, so I think I'll read a few from the third section, which is sort of about things out in the world of different sorts, or being out in the world. It's called Spire. That's the name of the section. So I'll read just a few from this that strike me. Immaculate. Here we are, covered in mites and animalcules, dancing giddily in the streets. How pleased I am. Bruegel couldn't have smelled it better, leaking his mind out in crushed blossoms. How did we ever make it this far? Mites ourselves, or giddy dancers turning upon the moment, whereupon, struck and striking, we turn again, and there's no longer any need to ask. How pleased I am, smelling of stars and animalcules, as they say, lucky to even be here. Imperceptible flash in the sand as these shocking hands twirl and grapple, flailing full body right off the canvas and into thick air as stars sing, as flesh takes flight, as salt, how I love you, passes through. Immaculate. Sun Sonnet. I like sonnets, and I'll write them sometimes. And this one, I wrote the first line, and I couldn't get the rest to come out for 10 years. That's what happens. Sun Sonnet. The title came afterward. A naked tree can tell us everything. Chained to the earth, grappling with sky, we flaunt our imperfections in the rain as budding eyes. Craven and verklempt, it's all we can to ride stolidly, fatefully arching vesicles toward luscious liquid, saturated air toward instant light. And in the wind, twisting, clattering arms, we find the flexibility of heart to wind us for the true imbroglio, the quickening. Oh yes, you know what roots you have, not disparate. Reclaim the mortal trunk we have and have again, pulled upward, out, beyond our living ken. Sun Sonnet. Since we're sitting in New York, here's a New York poem. Sort of about, you'll figure it out. New York Careen. Stress bomb of a Jesus fucking day, week, month, and here I am, tumbling out the karma hole into a few free hours. Free, yes, God, fuck it. And I can't slow down after so much work, sheer speed, drudge, calumny, apostrophe, when? Now, finally, rolling into fun time, now I streak off to Pink Pony Poetry Shindig, new old friends, words, tumbling, the Cartesian aspect, ominous universe, grin, happy and speckling, reading and dinner, and it is not enough. So I scorch off to night and day, to Mark Taylor Quartet Jazz Sweetness, voila, and they are fucking spot on crazy, rolling the mama choo-choo comma, suturing the mighty salacious day into giant soothing turtle love, trailing circus salve in a mallow tincture, leaking day and night back into my maladroited soul, and I lean back, greening and grinning, and it washes me, washes over me. Yeah, I think I'll read the final poem in the book, which is in this third section also, final poem of everything, which is also a New York poem. I think it's just a kind poem more than anything, a kindness. Lying in dark in Brooklyn, and I hear voices approach the building, and I make the city melt away. They've come in from the woods, through the estate, garden, late night dew, one late cricket, no light for miles, up the walk, and their laughing echoes on old stone. Breeze comes in from the fields, scent of hay, and I'm pretty sure in the morning I'll throw the curtains wide. I think I'll finish up by reading a few from the center, the middle section of the book, which for some reason I keep reading from last. I'm not sure why. First section is what it's not, which I think sets up the reading. I don't know. What do I know? I'm not reading the book. You are. The last section is out in the world, but the center section is sort of about love in the flesh, called Carnation. The body finds shape as muscle, nerve, scent, surface, grip. How tendons find rock, find wood, cracks in walls, granite, scree. The body shapes and finds, becomes a room, a slope, a sound, becomes a movement of air, becomes gradual, and gradually meets and blends, becomes the world around it, melds and merges and remains stolid, solid, breathing and flexile, is every shape, is every room. How flesh ends the world, how flesh begins it. The body, without beginning or end, explodes, vital, sensual, happening, everywhere, parallel, intransigent, conscious, beaming, tightening, sliding, balancing, hovering, sexing, shedding, lifting, lighting, lightning, dwelling. I love short little playful things in books. I can't resist them. Regarding love poem. If it is lush, I have a crush on you. If it's banal, a femme fatale is due. And if it flatters, it's self-flattery. But if it's true, there is no you or me. Regarding the love poem. I think I'll read two more if I may. This one has two words that are purposely sound like different words than they're actually written out. So when you hear the word jeans, it will sound like jeans, but it's spelled G-E-N-E-S. And probably the trickiest word is, you'll hear the word sighing, but that's actually based on the word psi, P-S-I, as in paranormal events. Mammalian dilemma. A wondrous bungle reaps the royal rump. A beaming lump of ectoplasm sings the praises of a newborn ring of gunk that spawns a new regime, a culture even. Oh, give us spleen enough to hump the dog of night that holds us down in Lizard Town, muling and praying in our goat hair suits to take another gobble of the randy cake. Sweet rake, you know not whence your genes protrude into the arching day, nor how to ride the sighing wave, nor which bright spark to rude and perfect rhythm on the blooming world. And yet I love you more than worms aspire, just as my love makes our disease more dire. Mud Song. May I have your mud? May I have your sweet, please, form? May I have your sheer, shorn shape? May I have your thick, stuck clay? May I smooth your clay? May I thumb your heat-struck flesh? May I move your clay? May I form your sweet mud to a burning temple? A temple, a burning, further birding, lurking, churning, thick with iron temple of a mud cup, cupping core of your struck flesh, you mire of my heart, my keen incurred resounding grace within your shape, you mud mucking temple. May I cup your mud, may I churn your clay, may I move your muck and settle in your burning grace, may I breathe your face, may I taste your iron, may I mouth your loam and fill my mud with every earnest muck the fire says is temple, a burning temple. Your mud is core, my core is cup, my cup is key, your clay is free and it is cupped, and you shall have my mud, shall have it in your hands, you burning bird, you turning rock, you wording beast of grace and mudly churning flock, you churning clay, your hands are way, your hands are day, and I am mud, and you shall shape the bird that lingers in the fray of form, the flesh of day, the breath of churning loam that shapes the next redemption from the cracking earth, the burning bone, the sheer remix of day that makes the flesh a wild, fresh enticing, cupping mud, your thick reply, your smoothing eye, your burning hand, the land of every struck, complete, undone, reminded muck. And how I dare redact the rivulets of mire, like mud, muck, sweat, reply, sweet hand, a core of running fire. May I have your fire, may I have your back, may I have your spine, may I have your every line, oh give me leave, oh leave to me the lines that make your grace. May I have your face, may I have your leave to face the line that forms the iron in the sand that turns to mud, that cuts the fire, that runs with rivulets of mire, sweet to sweep the lurking paramour of day, the sweetest clay, the smoothest way that hands can grace before becoming lace that feeds the burning iron, the churning mire, the iron temple in the flesh that turns to loam before the test of surging day. You have my clay, you have my sweet, pleased form, you have my sheer, shorn shape, you have my mud, you have my muck, you have my unstuck flesh, you have my heat-struck splay, you have my shine, my only mine, my iron mine, my only my, you have my face. I have your mud in my hands, and I am walking. It is 3 turns to the burning board. What ward I can be, I shall be. This claudicant cup, this clay of many rains. Your mud in my hands, over the plains, grass sighs, raw breeze, your sweet stains. I carry you, and you are rain in mud, your actual spine, your core, because the line is fresh, because the time rides true, because the plane is far, because we stepped into the room. My mud in your hands, and we are walking. What breaches the burning world? Where meet the shorn? This teeming road, this unspun skin. What matter in my hands? What shape? What gainly form? What grace? Walking with mud in hands, we meet. The stream is cold and the skin alive. 2 pieces of gold drop to the ground there, part of us, and they are not. But this mud, born by rain, thrives. We are mud churned by rain. The breath has learned to ride the stream of iron. The bone survives within the grass. The burning room will thrive amidst the windy plain. Like fire, like rain, we come to senses, in smoke, in pain. We breathe again, in ash, in vain. We find our bodies only to become, in love, in shame. We make our barter all the same. We turn away like night, like flame, bending obeisant to the blowing grain. Your soil in my veins is the start of my life. Your stain in my heart will bury me. When clay comes to light, it is only a glimpse of the skin of original body. Like blood, like dream, you are essential. Like mud, like steam, you turn me on. In the stream, we come together as we've always been.